guys, today's No Red Ink is covering the following skills. So finding the subject, correcting run-on sentences, and then finding a sentence's direct and indirect object. So I'm going to review those with you really quickly. Remember, No Red Ink also has that lesson button. They also have the hint button. But if you continue to get stuck, make sure you email me or Google Hangout me so I can help you, okay? This is just a review. First thing, finding subject. So remember, the subject is the part of the sentence that is doing or being. So I like to find the verb first. Usually that's for me is the easiest thing to find, and then determine what is doing the verb. So sometimes you will notice your subject is actually behind the verbs, and that's known as an inverted sentence. So the verb comes before the subject. Look at this example. Under the desk sat piles of gum. Let me give you a little hint. The subject is never ever a part of the prepositional phrase. So you can get rid of, well, you get rid of under the desk, and you can get rid of gum. So now we're just stuck with sat piles. Which one of those is the action, right? Your verb is sat. Piles then would be the subject. So piles sat, okay? Here is another example. So this is an inverted one as well. Here is a delicious pizza. Look at what's starred here. This is important to know. The words here and there are never going to be a part of your subject. So in a sentence that begins with one of those words, you know to look after the verb for your subject. So here is a delicious pizza. Our verb is. We have to figure out what is being, what is the pizza is. So pizza is our subject of that sentence. Okay, here's another hint. If you have a question, okay, always turn the question into a statement. That makes your subject easier to find. So in this example, are you the new student? Answer it, you are the new student. So our verb, right, our be verb there is are. Then you have to figure out what is being done. You are, okay? So you would be our subject there. And again, obviously it's harder when it's a being verb like this versus when it's an action verb, but you have to memorize that those are verbs, right? Am, be, is, are, was, were, etc. All right. In an imperative sentence, so that those are your commands, the subject is understood to be you, so whoever's being spoken to. So if I say sit down, the subject will be an implied you, and usually you will see like the textbook company put that in parentheses. Again, sit's your verb. All right, correcting run-on. So a run-on is when you have two or more independent clauses incorrectly put together as a single sentence. So there's 5 ways that you can correct those. The easiest one is just to separate them. In this run-on, Ms. Zapp loves apple pie. She also loves peach pie, right? Ms. Zapp loves apple pie is our first independent clause. That could hang on its own. This is also a complete sentence. She also loves pie, right? So when you have 2 independent clauses like that, you have to separate them or connect them appropriately. So again, the easiest way is just to put a period and a capital letter. So again, formulas, think of it this way: independent clause, period, independent clause, period. Obviously, if you did this every single time you were writing and editing your paper, you would have a very choppy sounding essay. So that's why you use a variety of these 5 options. Your second one is to use one of your coordinating conjunctions. Remember our fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Put that in between your independent clauses, but you have to have a comma before your coordinating conjunction there. So Ms. Zapp loves apple pie, comma, and that's my coordinating conjunction. She also loves peach pie. You just have to be mindful of what coordinating conjunction you choose, because obviously and is a connector, but would show a contrast. So memorize that formula: independent clause, comma, conjunction, independent clause, period. Option number 3 is to use a semicolon. Semicolons are used to combine 2 independent clauses that are related. So in this case, you can just put those together with an semicolon. Notice I don't capitalize she afterwards. You would only need to capitalize the first part of your second independent clause if it was a proper noun. Again, only if it was related. So I can't say Ms. Zapp loves apple pie, the Schnucks down the street just got new hours. Those aren't related, right? So I couldn't use the semicolon there. But again, this is an easy way to do it. The SAT, for some reason, loves the semicolon. So when you're in your SAT writing section, make sure you use one semicolon. They love to see that. So formula: independent clause, semicolon, independent clause, period. Option number 4, add a conjunctive adverb. So When you do that, the punctuation gets a little tricky. So you have to use a semicolon before your conjunctive adverb and then a comma after your conjunctive adverb. So here, Ms. Zapp loves apple pie, right? That's my first independent clause. Then I throw in my semicolon. Again, I can only use these because my next clause is connected to it. It's related. Additionally, comma, she loves peach pie. So our formula there, independent clause, semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma, independent clause, period. And our final option here is to create a clause. So turn one of our independent clauses into a dependent clause, and you do that by adding one of our subordinating conjunctions, one of our AWUBIS words, to one of those clauses. So in this example, I added an although before my first independent clause. Although Ms. Zapp loves apple pie, comma, she also loves peach pie. So now, although Ms. Zapp loves apple pie, that is no longer a complete thought. It can't hang on its own. So remember, when your dependent clause comes first like that, it will be dependent clause, comma, independent clause, period. All right, the last thing you are going to be looking at today is identifying direct and indirect objects. So a direct object is a noun or pronoun that receives the action of an action verb. So the easiest way to do this is always find your verb first and then ask after the verb, whom or what. Let's try this together. So Ben built a closet for his girlfriend. What's the action there? What is our verb? Hopefully you noticed built. So then you would say, built what? And that's how you find your direct object. So in this case, our direct object is a closet. Okay, you try to do the next two on your own really quickly. Feel free to pause the video if you need a second. I'm going to pop up the answers here momentarily. But Sergio filled the picnic basket with treats, right? Find your verb first. Ask yourself, filled what? There's your direct object. Okay, I washed the car after the storm and cleaned the seats. Notice number 3 has 2 verbs, so you might have 2 direct objects there. So washed what? Cleaned what? Check yourself. Hopefully you got these right. Okay, last thing, indirect objects are nouns or pronouns that answer the question to whom, for what, to what, or for what, again, after the action verb. So here are a couple of hints for you. You may have a direct object and no indirect object in your sentence, but you will never ever have an indirect object without a direct object. So that's something to remember. And then this is another hint. Your indirect object will always appear before your direct object. So keep that in mind too. Let's practice this. Dwight gave Michael beets. So again, always find your verb first. Gave, that's right, the action. Then ask yourself, gave what, to find your direct object. He gave beets. Now to find the indirect object, you're going to ask, gave the beets to whom, right? That's your indirect object, Michael, okay? Let's try number 2. On your own, again, pause the video and then check yourself. She bought herself a candygram. So our verb is bought. Bought what, right? That's your candygram, so that would be your direct object. But then ask yourself, to whom or for whom did she buy that candygram? Herself. Try the last one. 3, Britt bought the baby diapers. Bought what? Diapers. Diapers for whom? For the indirect object, the baby. Okay, and that's how you find the difference between direct and indirect objects. Again, your No Red Ink today is going to be practicing those skills, but if you do get stuck beyond using the lesson and hint button, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to help you.